There is a sacred power in every newborn child. They are, from almost the very beginning, full of life and curiosity, with perhaps a touch of cranky indignation, having been transported so suddenly from the safety of the womb into this large, mysterious place we call home. If you've had the privilege of attending a birth and holding a child as they make their initial protests over their changed situation, you will know what I mean. Because there is power in this tiny being that is mysterious and out of proportion to their size. Parents and grandparents and medical staff have all been held in awe of a birth event. It never gets old. It is never routine, and it never ceases to amaze us. Because a birth gives us hope that not all is lost, that the future needs to be considered, that plans had best be made. It was certainly true when Lee and I first became parents, and it is absolutely true where our celebrations of Jesus' birth are concerned. To begin with, Jesus' birth was fraught with all the sacred wonder that attends every human birth. The promise, the joy, the awe, and indignation. All as it should be when a new life is welcomed into the midst of our lives. And our gospel writers approach it from their own perspectives. Matthew writes of angelic visions for Joseph to help Joseph find his way through this mystery. And then he brings us those regal visitors from foreign lands. Luke focuses on Mary and her heavenly heralds and the not-so-regal shepherds' chorus. And both of those Gospels make much of the sacred wonder of this particular birth, and our faith is richer for their attention to detail. But I turn to John's Gospel this morning. None of the usual babe in the manger stuff for John. He chooses a higher plane. He wants to tell it as it has been and always will be. And his magnificent poem traces Christ's beginnings to the very beginning. The opening of John's Gospel offers us a glimpse of a full-grown Redeemer, the author of all creation. That, this morning, is the starting point for our celebrations. And what could be more wonderful? For those tales of angels, those songs of praise, and the royal gifts of the traveling trio, all of these things are memories applied well after the fact by those who met Jesus, who met in Jesus the truth of God's saving grace. And we celebrate the birth of Christ by retelling these ancient memories and memorizing this chain of events in poem and song. We have elevated the story of Christ's birth above all other births in history. But it seems to me what matters most, and what John captures in his gospel, is not how Christ came, or even when Christ came. What John captures with full effect is that Christ came. the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, John says, and we have seen his glory. It is that glory that brought the heavenly host to earth. That glory that woke the sleeping multitude and incited a riot of joy. Glory that revealed well after the fact that this birth, so like every other birth, marked the beginning of a life like none other. For in Jesus we meet the very principles of God: unbounded love, unlimited compassion, an unbending sense of justice, all of which are directed at those who had no right to expect any favors from God, and yet they do. In Jesus we find hope like no other. Hope that frees us to live out the promise that is in each of us from the moment of our birth. The sacred potential to make something wonderful of the future. Let that be where your Christmas celebrations begin. And let us take strength from these celebrations and rejoice again in the mystery of this blessed birth that brings us through the infant Jesus into the very presence of God. Amen.